Today's local and national news from Thailand via the fabulous Pattaya Media Group. And if you'd be kind enough to like and subscribe, here's a tip for you to get the very latest news from us every day. When you subscribe, click on the button that says All. And then every day you'll get an update straight from us. A few moments ago, we were talking to the British ambassador here at the British Embassy in Bangkok. Now we have the chance to meet our new consul, or not so new. She's a bit worn out now. Good morning, Joanne. How are you?
I'm fine, Tommy. How are you today?
Good. How are you enjoying your new job?
I am loving it. Really am.
Tell us a little bit about Joanne before you came here.
Right, okay. So, Joanne has been in the Foreign Office for over 40 years.
Wow.
My last posting was in Malaysia. But basically, I oversaw the consular teams in Cambodia, Vietnam, Brunei, Singapore, Laos.
All from one country?
All from one country. So based in KL, but obviously travelled to those. Oh, and Myanmar. So I was covering that when obviously
that must have
they
been
had
interesting.
the coup. Very interesting. A lot of, obviously very diverse between somewhere like Singapore and somewhere like Laos.
So you were based at the time where?
So I was based in KL, Kuala Lumpur.
Right.
Yeah.
And now you're in Bangkok.
Now.
So Burma, Myanmar,
Yeah.
is now managed from Malaysia still?
So we have some staff, we have some consular staff in Myanmar. However, the overall manager is based in Kuala Lumpur.
Right, okay. And when did you take over here?
So I took over here last October.
How are you finding it?
I'm loving it. It's a job I've wanted for about 30 years, so I was so pleased when the timing fitted in with my own personal life. So,
brilliant. If you had to outline your team's remit, a job description for your team, we've heard the job description for ambassador. What's yours?
So at the end of the day, we are here to help and support the British nationals who are in Thailand,
right,
whether they are visitors or tourists. And we can break that down into 4 areas. So our main bulk of our work is providing assistance to them. So whether they've ended up in prison, whether they've had a car crash, whether there's a dispute over children. The second part are the services which we deliver. They are now limited compared to how they used to be in the past, but our main area, marriage affirmations, when obviously a British national and 9 times out of 10 a Thai national want to get married. The third part is prevention.
What's prevention?
So,
prevention from getting married, yeah?
Yeah, well. So I'm glad you asked, because I think sometimes you will see on our social media, you know, His Majesty's Consul out and about meeting immigration, photograph of me or my team at a hospital, things like that, and you might think,
freebies.
Oh, what are they doing? You know, it's all about building up relationships. It's all about explaining what we can and cannot do to the authorities. No, it's been there. It's always been there, but we've emphasised it a lot more in the last few years.
And what kind of results are you seeing?
So, well, it's then much easier for us to reach out, say, to the Thai social services. If we've built a rapport with them, and then we suddenly get a case in somewhere, say, like Chiang Mai, and we know the people up there, it's much easier to pick up the phone, ask how are they going to help, what do they want us to do, rather than a sort of cold call out of the blue to say, hey, you don't know us. So that works really well. It's also about looking at our trends. So I think you are aware we do have quite a few British nationals that get involved in motorbike accidents. So again, that's our sort of one of our main projects at the moment. What can we do? How can we work with the Thai government to ensure that our nationals wear their helmets, have the right insurance, have a driving licence, don't drink drive?
It's estimated about 85% of people who rent motorbikes here do not have valid motorbike licences in their own country, which means, of course, that any insurance they've got is invalid.
There's that, and also it's the size of the bike that they then also rent. So if they have got insurance, you can guarantee it's probably only to cover a bike of 50cc.
Right, which they don't have here.
And did I know anything about CCs and bikes before I came?
Well, 50cc, 49cc is a moped.
Is it right? Well, there
yeah.
you go. I've learned something. So also on the prevention side, another area which it's very topical at the moment, we're doing work on victims of rape or sexual assault.
Right.
And this is a worldwide project, so we're not singling out Thailand at all. It's something my colleagues are doing in other countries around the world, because obviously when somebody is sexually assaulted or attacked, it can be very traumatic for them.
And it's very difficult because it's a different culture here and a different way of thinking.
Exactly, and how people then, whether it be the police or the hospitals, how they then react to the victims so that they don't become re-victimised. And so we're doing some work. I've got a team going down to Phuket next week with a team from Chiang Mai to see how we can then help. And then the fourth thing, obviously, is crisis. And you'll, be aware that we have had a few in the past here, as we have in other countries in the region. We need to be prepared.
Right.
So when a crisis happens, it's no point us thinking, oh, what are we going to do? It's right, we know X will be in charge of that, Y will do that, and therefore we are prepared.
So your team's got used to their new leadership now and the way you want things done.
I think they have.
Oh, good.
I hope they have. I'm still here.
A couple of questions coming. I was just going to throw these at you. How easy is it for expats or visitors to access your team for general non-emergency issues?
Yeah.
This is like advice. I just need to know how this works.
Yeah.
But they don't want just read it. They just want it because every case is slightly different.
Yeah, so what we now have, and again, it's sort of evolved over the last few years, again, worldwide, we're not signalling out Thailand here, is that we do have a call contact centre. So anybody who calls this British embassy or the embassy in Moscow or the embassy in Madrid, they automatically go through to this call centre. That then ensures that it frees up my team and their team so that they're not constantly answering the phones. And it also means we're giving a consistent advice to everybody.
But you can't, can you?
You can you can go in on from the guide.
London,
yeah.
and I'm working on your call centre thing, and I have somebody calling from Thailand.
Yes.
And this is the issue that's being raised by a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I call from Thailand because I have a problem pertinent to Thailand.
Yeah.
But let's be honest, that is a generic answering person. He's not going to understand the things that your team will understand because you've got boots on the ground.
No, they do, because we provide a lot of information. So they have all the facts, figures, anything that is relevant to Thailand, they will have that information, exactly the same as my team has.
And will they refer back to you, though?
They will, if it is then considered something that they are unable to answer, or if they really do think, obviously, if somebody is phoned in because they've just been attacked, you're not going to say go on to gov.uk, you're going to say hang on a minute. They would then call the team, whether it's within working hours or out of hours, and then somebody would then deal with that. But it frees us up.
So you still have an out of hours team running?
Yes, we do, yes.
That's important.
But this frees us up to deal with the most vulnerable people.
Because other moans and groans, I'm just giving you the moans and groans.
Yes, don't worry.
People saying, several moans and groans reaching us, and perhaps rightly, that when people write or call to your team regarding issues or information that they don't get any semblance of a reply.
Right, so again, this, it would go, all of it goes through to the contact centre, including written inquiries. We have, I know you mentioned, they don't want to read something, but our guidance that we put on gov.uk is very, very thorough. It is reviewed on a regular basis. So, we have that information here. The team in the contact centre have that as well.
We're going to catch up with you again in the future, Joanne, so I'm not going to throw all the questions at you now.
Okay,
It'll take too much time. But one that came up, which was a very interesting one.
Yeah.
Let's cheer ourselves up a bit. Talking about death.
That's
okay?
Right.
So a British national dies here. Before he can be cremated, a piece of paper has to be issued from the embassy saying, yes, it's all right to set fire to him. What's the procedure?
So the procedure, again, it depends on the circumstances. So, of course, there's, most of our deaths here are very straightforward. It's people dying from old age, but we do have some where they are suspicious. We have two very good guides, so I would encourage all people, if they're of a certain age, to go online, gov.uk, Death in Thailand, and read what can be done. But the other thing I would like to stress, Tommy, is for everybody to get their affairs in order.
This is what I'm coming to. Can you get this paperwork done in advance? So this is one of our listeners wrote in and said, I know this is daft because he's not dead.
Yes.
But at some point we're all going to die.
Yeah, but so... Yes, there's certain things that obviously there's certain paperwork they wouldn't be able to do because you can't do it till you've got a death certificate. But making sure that they're next of, they have a next of kin.
Right.
Fill in the back of your passport, because we do have people dying here and they will end up with a pauper's funeral because they don't have a next of kin.
If they're living with somebody and they're not legally married, you cannot consider that person as a next of kin, can you?
We can, yes. In certain circumstances, we can.
Can you explain that? Because we were always told you couldn't.
Right, OK. Well, again, if they are the only person, then, we would look at their wishes. Obviously, if they can prove that they've been in the relationship, that is a big help. What we have to be careful, of course, is that there could be children or ex-spouse in the UK, and that's where the difficulty can happen.
So if they've got children, those are now still going to be the next of kin overriding the girlfriend.
Depending on what has been prepared, you can go and get a will in Thailand. This is what we want to do more work on, power of attorneys, things like that, because it is an area where it does cause concern. And it's not fair on the Thai spouse, Thai partner, to be left not even knowing what the PIN number is of the bank account so that she can get money out for food. So I would encourage all of our British nationals to have everything in place.
And a will in place.
Wills, power of attorney, living wills. If they end up in hospital, and it's, do we keep the machine on? Do we take the machine off?
Well, the hospital, of course, won't take the opinion of a non-married spouse.
If there's written down, if you have said, if this happens to me, this is my wishes, and that can be produced, then that is a huge, huge help.
And I know that hospitals like Bangkok Pattaya Hospital actually do have provision there. You can actually go there and make out a living will ahead of time.
Good. Well,
then they have it on record.
Exactly. But of course, you may end up then in another hospital, and that's the problem.
Joanne, tourism's increasing, and so are the numbers of issues increasing too. We're seeing that in the news. Is that reflected in your logs?
I don't know if I'm tempting fate here, but I would just say we have actually had a quiet few months as regards our cases. However, we are getting ourselves ready for the season starting in October. Crazy season. I've got a full team in place. So as I say, we are ready. We've had some new people. They've been marvellous. We've trained them up. We are ready. We will obviously watch with interest where there are increases. As mentioned before, the road traffic accidents. We've had a couple of balcony deaths, so we're watching that one very closely. Remember, not everything comes our way. So it could be that you in the community are actually hearing more than we are at times, because it's only if somebody wants to report it that it comes to our attention.
How can they report it?
Well, because they would be calling in.
They can call in,
and then if it's felt that it is an emergency, then of course we will be dealing with, or the police phone us. The tourist police phone us, the tourist assistance centres call us. So, these people will be calling us, getting through to us when it is something that requires our assistance.
Emergencies aside and calamities aside, one of the biggest things you deal with is prisons.
Yes.
Where you've got British expats wallowing in Thai jails, as we read about on a regular basis. Now, during COVID, access was pretty zero. Have you seen conditions in the prisons improve?
Yes, we have. And I just like at this point to say that on a bilateral relationship, we are doing, not the consular section, but the political section are doing some work under what we call law enforcement with the Thai authorities. So we've had a team come out from the prison service in the UK. They've gone into various different prisons. They're making suggestions. They're also taking back things to the UK that the Thais do that we don't do.
So in England, they'll put 7 to a cell and take away the televisions.
Yeah. so, it's very encouraging. I would just like to say, having worked in some other countries, then what I see here is very encouraging.
Really?
Yes. Yeah.
How do you see the difference between a regular prison and the immigration detention centre, which always has got da-da-da-da?
Yeah, well,
before
rightly so. So in some way, yes, the conditions there are not great, and we do consider anybody and everybody who ends up there as vulnerable. So we go out.
What do you mean vulnerable?
So they need more help. So this is where the Foreign Office over the years has changed, in that we now do a lot more for these people we consider vulnerable. So somebody ending up in the immigration detention centre, yes, they've overstayed their visa. We are non-judgmental, but at the same time, we have to accept that conditions are not great there, because basically it's a holding cell until they then,
get the money. They've got to come up with the money
They've
for the
got to
ticket
come
to
up
get
with the
home.
money and their fine to then go back to the UK. So, but again, Tommy, this is where we've got really good relationship with,
Oh, have you?
Oh, very good. And so we're, the team are down there most days because the access that we have to our nationals. And we talk to some of the other embassies, and, they're jealous. They're jealous of
Really?
how we are able to just go there, a drop of a hat to see our nationals.
Okay. What makes your life and the work of your team difficult?
I think they get upset. They deal
Your team?
they deal with certain cases where, emotionally it can be draining, and we've got to realise that they have their own lives as well. So they may have just lost somebody in their own life, and then they're having to deal with the death of somebody else, or a child case where there's a dispute between the mother and the father, and they're not thinking of the child at the end of the day. So they do get upset. They probably, like myself, maybe get a bit frustrated because there is policy, there is guidance. Also, they have to be careful when people are rude to them, but they are so accepting of this.
Good.
I will be the one that will say, hey, no, I'll now deal
You're like the
with
headmistress, really, aren't you?
I know.
You come across very... You do, in all honesty, you do. I can see that. What would you like to see improved with the consular services here? What improvements would you like to see?
Well, I don't know if this really answers that question, but what I would like to see is a lot of our nationals signing up to travel advice, so that they know what we are saying, so that we know how to reach out to them. That's our way of reaching out to them in a crisis. Plane crash at the airport, don't go to the airport, landslide in X, this is how we'd reach out to people. So that's what I really want to work on, to get people to sign up. We've touched on deaths. I would love people to have all their affairs in order before they do die. And also to understand what we can and can't do.
I think that's an issue that's never ending.
It is, but again, with me, hopefully, and the ambassador, travelling around the country, having our town hall meetings with the expats.
How are you finding those?
I'm finding them enjoyable, but my big question is, are we getting the right people at them?
That is the good question.
And that is,
yes.
the people...
Or are you seeing the same faces?
The people who are coming are not necessarily the ones that probably need our advice. They probably have their affairs in order. So when these things happen, we're not likely to hear from them. We're likely to hear from the person who has never turned up at one of our meetings.
There you go. Joanne, thank you so much for talking to us on Fabulous 103. I have a feeling we're going to talk again very soon.
Lovely. I look forward to that,
Next time in
Tommy.
the studio.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.